Welcome. If this is your first time here, this is a quiet space. We don't rush here. We don't pretend here. We sit with the things we don't always name, like growth, desire, longing, questions, and faith. This is a space for honest reflection, for noticing what's happening beneath the surface, for bringing what we usually hide into gentle light. So wherever you are listening from, walking, resting, or even thinking, just take a breath. We don't have to fix anything right now. Let's begin. In the last reflection, we spoke about seeing the lie behind desire. How many desires arrive with a promise, a quiet story that says, "This will satisfy you." But when we begin seeing the promise clearly, another question often appears. If we know that the promise is not always true, why then do we hide our struggle? Why do we hide the desire, even from ourselves? Why is it sometimes easier for us to pretend that we are fine than to be very honest, about what we are actually feeling? Perhaps we ask ourselves, what am I afraid might happen if this part of me is seen? Hiding is one of the most human instincts that we have. We sometimes hide ourselves, we sometimes hide how we feel, we sometimes hide, the things inside of us that feels uncomfortable. We move it, out of sight. We distract ourselves. We avoid even thinking about it. Sometimes we even bury it, under busyness. Sometimes under silence. And sometimes we hide it, even deeper, under shame. Shame whispers, something very convincing. It says, if people saw this part of you, they would turn away. So we hide. But hiding has a cost. The things that we refuse to face don't just disappear. They simply move into the background of our lives, quietly influencing how we think, how we relate, how we see ourselves. And the longer, something stays hidden, the heavier it can begin to feel. Not always because the desire itself is powerful, but because secrecy gives space, to grow. Lust grows in secrecy. Shame grows in silence. Perhaps you ask yourself, what have I been hiding from myself? If we sit with this honestly, hiding is often connected to fear. Fear of being judged, fear of disappointing ourselves, fear of disappointing others, fear of discovering, something about ourselves that we don't want to see. But sometimes the deepest fear is this: if this part of me is real, what does that say about me? And so we push it away. We pretend that it's not there. We try to manage the image of ourselves that we want the world to see. But the hidden parts of ourselves don't disappear through avoidance. They wait in the background, waiting to be acknowledged. Freedom rarely begins with perfection. It usually begins with honesty. Not, dramatic type of honesty. Not public confession. Just, quiet honesty with ourselves. Naming what is actually there. The desire, the struggle, the confusion, the longing. Because the moment something is named honestly, it begins losing the power that secrecy gave it. Perhaps you ask yourself, what might change if I stop hiding, this from myself? For many of us on a spiritual journey, hiding also affects our relationship with God. Because when we feel shame, we often assume we need to clean, ourselves up first. We think, I will bring, this, to God, when I've, fixed it. But the invitation of grace is very different. Grace does not begin with perfection. It begins with honesty. Not performing, not pretending, simply bringing what is real into the light. God is not surprised by what you are afraid to admit. Perhaps you are wondering, what would it look like to bring this, honestly before God? And when we begin bringing hidden things into the light, another question begins to emerge, a deeper one that says to us, if I'm not defined by my struggles, if I'm not defined by my desires, then who am I really? In the next reflection, we will sit with this question together, because sometimes the journey towards freedom begins with remembering something that we have forgotten, which is who we truly are. Thank you for sitting with me today. If something resonated, inside of you, don't rush past it. Carry it with you. Reflect on it. Pray through it. Freedom is not built in one moment. It grows in returning, in honesty, in staying connected. If this space has helped you to think a little deeper or to breathe a little slower, I'm grateful that you are here. Come back, when you are ready. There's no pressure here, just reflection and the quiet walk of becoming.